That is Mika Immonen from Finland, 50 years of age now. His opponent, Khai. So many players from Vietnam coming through in the game and coming to our attention, Jeremy. But on the basis of the results we've seen and the performances he's had against some good players, this guy looks like one of the best of them.
Yeah, definitely, especially for one that's, you know, a name we don't know, and he played pretty well at the Perry, had some good wins. And again, the most impressive thing to me about the Perry, and since I've been here in Vietnam, is how young the invested crowd is here in Nineball pool in Vietnam for the most part. Open hand bridge to break the balls. Always amazes me how well players can hit the ball with the open hand bridge on the break shot. It's very few and far between, but the ones that do go with that route seem to hit the ball well, but dry here in the first game.
We've had some issues over the few days so far in terms of conditions and feeling that perhaps the tables were rolling off a bit. But they have redirected the air conditioning in here now. Now, you've got to have the air conditioning in these temperatures, so that's something we've just got to get round. And the fact that they have now redirected it, that may lead to a different day today. Some of the matches yesterday we saw players, including some very big names, struggling to an extraordinary degree.
Yeah, and you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, these are huge venues, ton of work to do anything around here, and I don't know what, some 50 yards up in the air there, the ceiling maybe 60, and you know, it took a little bit. We messed with the table, finally figured out it was the air con. And the thing about the struggle is the players, sometimes you couldn't realize what it was. You know, it was almost a bewildering kind of thing, and you know, it's so fickle and mental, this sport, that if you have a little disturbance at all, it can really start to get away from you a little bit.
We saw Dennis Orcolio, one of the best players we've ever seen, in action on the main table yesterday, and honestly, in terms of standard, I've never seen a match as bad as it.
Yeah,
it's got to be down to the conditions to a large extent anyway.
Yeah, and it's sticky, and of course Dennis added getting back on the scene in big events. You know, that could play a little bit of part, but you know, once you don't recognize and you miss a few balls, you may not even know why you missed them. It's almost like not knowing what happened in the stroke to cause the problem. It can become very, very mental. A little bit, you know, it's almost like that 5-ball right there. We talk about some players that shoot the 9 a little hard, right? And at times, or at least in some of our opinions. And there, you know, Mika possesses pretty much everything as far as ability. He could have struck that a little bit smoother, you might say. I hate to say lighter, because you don't want to be babying the ball, but smoother to make that pocket a hair more friendly.
He'll be absolutely fuming about that. The break from Khai could hardly have worked out better from Immonen's point of view. Came up dry and left the ball sitting in such a nice situation. Chance to assert himself early on, and he's passed it up by missing that 5.
Yeah, and Doe looks pretty comfortable, not taking a whole lot of time. You know, a young player. Of course, that one got away. And trying to get as much experience as he can. But younger players tend to play a little quicker, a little more free.
It's a big match for him. He's playing one of the best, really, that we've seen in modern times. He's playing in front of the cameras, and so often we see players go out as he did there and look perfectly comfortable with the environment at the start of the match, and then they miss 1 or 2 like that and it gets in their head, and that's when the circumstances start to affect their performance.
Yeah, and that's where a veteran like Mika is really supposed to take advantage and make that a little tougher mentally for Doe. Now Mika, he was one of the few in my career, and you know, I say few sounds like 3. There's more than that, of course, but when you talk about all the players, a very, very low percentage that could really kind of own tournaments at times or make it look like he owned them with such incredible play. He was one of those players, normally when he won an event, it was, you know, the way you want to do it, you know, battle with the great players and then put some racks together to separate. And, you know, player of, I think the 2000s, what was the decade? A player of the decade in 2000 there, Mika Immonen. So you get something like that next to your name, that tells you it wasn't just a tournament or two. It was really a sustained success at a high level.
I think I described him earlier as a player with nothing left to prove, and it's literally the case. He's just done everything there is to do in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, especially when it comes to 9-ball pool, I mean, some players make the Hall of Fame because they're so good at so many disciplines and they've showed it. But, you know, sometimes it's hard to make it on one discipline into that Hall of Fame, but he was a no-brainer.
So disappointing miss for Immonen on the 5. Looked to have handed the rack away, but Khai missed the 8, found himself in trouble on his next visit to the table, gave up ball in hand, and Immonen really didn't have much to do from there to take a 1-0 lead. At the start of what's going to be a long day for one of these guys, if he's to make it through to the final 64, because this is losers round 2. There would still be one more match to play after this, just to get to losers qualification, which is also played today. So it's going to take 3 matches today to make that final 64. 32 players will come through from the winner's side, 32 from the loser's side, and then from tomorrow the whole environment changes, no safety nets at all. 64 players, 1 straight knockout round in each session, all the way through to the final on Sunday evening. As we look again at the key moments of that opening rack, Khai, you could see there, knew what a chance he'd passed up, and it was always highly unlikely Immonen was not going to make the most of that.
Yeah, I don't think we've named this day, you know, like a moving day like they do in golf, but we should. We got to figure out this is the most high pressure day leading into those last days, because we'll have our final 64, and of course we'll see some real quality and intense matches trying to make that final 64.
I suppose it's more like cut day, really.
Yeah.
And then maybe tomorrow's the moving day, because that's when you're getting through to the final 16, when we're only down to the last few tables. So maybe today's cut day and tomorrow's moving day.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as far as, you know, analysts of the game, and that's what we do, is talk about it. The end of the day will start to tell us how players are playing. Tomorrow, even more so, the moving day, the tables will be settling in even more. And we'll start to see some separation, I think, at times, and really start to probably make a little more accurate guesses on who we'd like to win the event.
I think it was the tables that were moving yesterday, in one sense, for that air conditioning issue.
Yeah, and the Rassens are great. I mean, no one's complained really on that end. It's just, and it hadn't been every table. It just so happened this table number 1 had quite a bit of air blowing on it from one side. And that's just how sport is, you know. Look back to the Super Bowl last year, and it seems like it's always a turf problem, and that's the biggest sporting event in the entire world. And so there's always something to talk about when it comes to the elements in sports. All right, should chop this 2 down past the 9. Got to ignore the 9-ball here. And this is where a little experience, not only playing the correct safety, but, you know, playing a safety itself. Now, if he goes after this 9, does he try to make the 8 as well? Okay, pretty good. I think he was just going out for a safety. And that's where he wanted a little slower cue ball. He could have chopped the 2 and kind of zigzagged it back and forth behind the purple, but wanted the cue ball to be roaming a little more slowly. So not bad. Here you got to just bank the 2 down between the 4 or 5 and go into the 7 with the cue ball. Early in the match here, you don't want to give away anything easy. Even if you don't get the snooker, it's okay. Just like that. And I think Mika, if he just takes the mentality of don't worry about it, but everything doesn't fall perfect, I think that's the kind of mentality he needs to make a big move in these tournaments. Because he's always going to play a pretty sound shot for the most part. You know, sometimes physically we make a mistake, but if he keeps it calm between the ears, I think he's got a chance to get some steam rolling and make a deep run. He's already shown us this year he can do that. Great shot there, and really what he excels at, knocking the ball in, even at 50 years old.
Yeah, Immonen is playing Khai here. He's already played another Vietnamese player called Khai earlier in the tournament. This is his opening match. He won it 9-2, but then lost to Tang Ching Ting in the next round, which is why he's here on the loser's side. As for Do Van Khai himself, well, he lost his first match, but it was against Tyler Steyer, a very good player, as you know, JJ, from the US, and pushed him to 9-5. That sent him over to the loser's side, where he's already played one match against the British player Paul Gulbrandsen, and won that one 8-3. So here he is now in losers round 2, and with a chance to win the second rack.
Yeah, he's got to go back and forth with some check English. That'd be a little right English just to get a little thin cut on the purple 5. Should be able to beat the side pockets pretty easily, and that's one thing the players have said, that since we've gotten here on day 1 even, not near as much slide on the rails as you would expect with, you know, of course, fresh brand new tables and cloth. And that's a little inexperience. Not only was the route really not there with the 7 in play, but definitely I think he could have checked the cue ball. Now the long ball, which Mika was one of the best ever in.
You were saying earlier, he's shown us this year he's still capable of deep runs, and it was only last month, the Turning Stone, he got to the final of that. He lost to Federer Gorst, but everyone seems to be losing to Federer Gorst at the moment, except Ko Ping Chung, of course. And that's a big event, the Turning Stone.
Yeah, absolutely. An event that's been on the calendar now, I think 20 years, and you know, an assortment of names, and always big names, it seems, that have taken that title down. So the Ping 4, a little struggle here in game number 2.
Yeah, it finally succumbs to the will of Do Van Khai, and again has a chance to level the match. Yeah, you mentioned that Perry Open. He beat one of your guys, Billy Thorpe, there. Got into the last 16. Played Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, was beaten 10-4, but it was a very good field, that. So to get that far on the lines, he's obviously a very capable player.
Well, like most of the young ones, they really learn to knock the ball in, and the running outside of things is what you key on, and as you should. We'll see what happens, you know, when some real tough decisions, maybe a push out or something tactically comes about. But that's the one thing you want to keep him off of. And I think at times, you know, Mika probably didn't take advantage sometimes, maybe not only slowing himself down a hair, but getting the feel of his opponent with that. You know, not slow play again. Never would ever recommend any slow play, but just kind of finding that rhythm that feels good, and also seeing how his player responds to that rhythm, his opponent. All right, these 9 balls, you hit any of the point here, could have problems. A clean one there, though, the tire match.
Yeah, he's made a few mistakes early on. They both have. He doesn't seem to have knocked Do Van Khai out of his stride. And he's levelled the match at 1-1. Race to 8 on the loser's side, except in the loser's qualification round, which these guys will be 1 win away from if they get through this. So Chris Melling also in this round, one of the great Q Sports all-rounders, British player, level at 1-1 with Wen Huang Pong. Tommy Tokoff, American player, has won the first rack against Matt Edwards. And there are also matches going on in round 3 on the loser's side. Long Duc Tien, one of the best players from this country, has won the first 3 racks against Lee Kun Fang. Elliot Sanderson, British player who we saw in the World Cup back in the summer in Spain, 2-1 up against Wen Nok Tai. And BJ Ussery, who's trying to get into your Moscone team, JJ, he's lost the first rack to Tuan Nguyen.
Well, you were talking about the stride there before, right at the end of that rack. And Do kind of has a nice little stride around the table, a little strut. You can tell he's a confident young man, and gotta like seeing that.
I saw him practicing yesterday, and I've noticed he doesn't seem to wear socks. He just seems to have a pair of shoes on his feet, which isn't something you see very often. That's the kind of shot that can make you look quite foolish.
Yeah, it was difficult. He's going to stay offensive. We can see that. Trying to even build on that rhythm that he displays around the table. And I'm sure, like every Vietnamese I've met so far, just really fun and high-spirited.
Yeah, one thing I think we've definitely all found since we got here, they're an incredibly friendly people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Mika Immonen, as we've been saying, 50 years of age now, from Finland. He was actually born in London, but he's been around for such a long time. And as a teenager, he won the first Euro Tour event that was ever played in Belgium back in '92.
Well, that's something to say. Just like all these great events, the inaugural one here in Hanoi, and of course this year in Spain, last year in Germany, UK Open. Those are something special to win the first one.
That's it, and if you break the record for winning the most, someone can always take that off you. But if you're the first to do something, you're the first for all eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. Those tournaments are going to continue to grow, and who knows even how big they'll be on the pool map here in a decade or so. Yeah. Not the best there, and that was definitely on Mika. Got to shore those up. Now this cue ball is going to get over the 9. Needs a little bit of oomph into this, not a ton of angle. So difficult shot here. Very good cueing though with the back arm. That's the one thing I think we've seen from some of the veterans from Vietnam. When the sport was going, maybe not as much instruction or as much information. Now the youngsters seem to be a little better than the vets, and that's a great sign for Vietnam and future Nineball pool.
Oh, that was a great chance to lead for the first time in the match, instead of which he's going to trail again. So Mika Immonen restores his 1-rack advantage at 2-1. British player Pat Holtz is in action, leading Dang Tan Kien by 2 racks to 0. Elliot Sanderson now 3-1 up on Wen Nok Tai. Those matches in the round after this one. Got winners qualification coming up shortly, some cracking matches lined up there. See Jason Shaw against Jeff DeLuna next on this table. 2 bites of the cherry if you're in that round. Even if you lose, you go to losers qualification. But of course, even if you come through that way, that means you play someone who's come through on the winner's side. And that does make a huge difference. We saw that very much in action with Shane Van Bonen after his defeat to Marco Teutcher at the US Open. Ended up playing Chang Young Lin. Went out in the last 64 for the 2nd year in a row. 2-1 to Mika Immonen here.
Yeah, and when you look at that subject you were just talking about, that's more of a long-term thing. It doesn't have to work out that way, but you want to stay undefeated because percentage-wise throughout a season, in that final 64, you are going to draw a little lighter. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean a guaranteed win, but definitely you'd love to be a little bit of a favorite in any match. All right, no push out here. Thought about. Wow, we've got some fans in the building today. Huge roar.
Yeah.
I'm assuming from table 2.
It's got to be a golden break, hasn't it?
No, it's actually, I think, a fluke on the 9.
Ah, right.
A little fun having sportsmanship and playing with the crowd, and it's going to happen from time to time. And I love it, really.
Yeah, we could see he just caught the 7 there. Did manage to hit the 1 ball, but too late by then.
Well, talked about it just a few minutes ago that Of course, he's young, and the offensive side of things would be good, but, you know, once a decision had to come, and he had a push-out option there.
We'll try and find out a bit more about what happened over on the other table. I thought they'd started the Mosconi early.
Yeah, right.
That big cheer.
Well, just imagine what it's going to be like on the weekend here, and that gives you a little taste. There's been a lot of fans already through the week, but it's been come and go, and it's a big arena. I'll tell you what's been super packed also, from what I hear, is, of course, these pool players are one of a kind when it comes to the best in the world, and you can get next to them because they're so friendly, right? And just that's how the pool world is. For the pool clubs, some of the players have been going to practice there when they can, and these tables aren't available, and I've heard it's just been slammed at the pool rooms. Fedor Gors talked to him last night. He said he did about 2 hours worth of photos.
Who was that?
Fedor Gors.
Fedor.
At the pool room yesterday. I know he did a couple hours each day over at the Perry, it seemed like.
Well, I know we always talk about how accessible and approachable the players are, and it's so true. The one who perhaps isn't seen quite in the same regard as Shane Van Boning, because he, you know, likes to keep himself to himself. But as I was leaving the venue last night, I saw a succession of people stop him on the way to his taxi for photos, and he stopped and smiled for every single one of them. Just wonderful to see, and that kind of attitude is one of the greatest assets that I think this sport has.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it not only runs deep with the fans, but, you know, I see a lot of you guys, Michael, that not are fans of the game also, but you're working, right? And I think y'all make comments about how easy it is at these pool tournaments with the great players compared to maybe some other sports, and they're always fun to be around.
Oh, without a doubt. And Mika Immonen, just a few minutes ago, looked like he was going 2-1 down in this match. Now he's leading by 3 racks to 1. Now I believe we're going to have a look in what's been going on over on table 2. So is this what the big cheer was for? So it's Do Khai, who actually played Mika Immonen earlier in the tournament. Seen as a bit of an entertainer by the crowds here. It's his opponent, Marcos Martin.
Do Khai there on table 2. Those big roars were from him getting his home crowd going after a bit of luck on a fluke on a 9. But hey, it's not going to happen very often. Why not enjoy it when it does?
Well, apparently he just got down, just hammered the 9. It went off a load of cushions and dropped in somewhere.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the most interesting and fun things we've seen all year was Mark Beisterbosch at the Spanish Open. When he didn't like something and the shot clock was coming down, he just said, let's rip him.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it worked out for him a bit at times, and I think it also got him and the crowd going.
I'll tell you what isn't bad either for the crowd is to see 3 balls going down off the break. And if you're the player hitting that shot and you land on the 3 as well, so much the better. Lovely chance to really take control of this match. And he's blown it, JJ.
Yeah, he's out of sorts with the swing, the timing. You can see that we always talk about it. Mika's one of the few that doesn't settle the cue before the last stroke, and you know, when you're like that, of course he's super talented. That's why I think, and always played so much. That's another reason why I think he kind of got away with that a little bit. But you know, it takes a few shots sometimes. And the other thing is when you have that type of technique where you don't settle the cue, if you miss a couple, it can get a little heady. I think the 3 may go by the 5. Oh no, that's a good look. So he's got to take on a tough one in the side and draw position on the pink. This will test the timing, especially if he has to cut it, which he does with a soft draw. He can go up a little past the side. And again, just a little off with the delivery. You know, and I think when you talk about technique or trying to keep your game or improve your game, you got to look at the young, or when you do start to get a little older. I think when we've seen in other sports when some players are trying to, you know, get their game back or whatever, even if they weren't someone that ever went to a coach or had other eyes when they were dominating the world, they'll make that change and go get someone to take a little look at them. Because Mika's still working hard. He's still making all these tournaments and hitting balls and whatnot. But just sometimes you need a little direction or maybe just a little thought.
Well, there are a lot of guys from that era, around that age group. They didn't go away as such. They've always been around the scene, but it feels as though the expanded schedule and having so many big events like this has given them a new lease of life. Guys like Pagalayan, Suke. As I say, they've always been around, but you feel it's rejuvenated them. There's much more opportunity now to shine in events of this nature.
Well, yeah, just think about it. And most of those guys you were talking about, you know, are Hall of Famers or won so many titles. You know, so whether they recognize it or not, it's a feeling inside. It'd be something to win at different eras and beat so many of the great players that are in the game today.
Well, listen, if you can get to the final, Turning Stone, you can go deep in one of these big open events, that's for sure. Mika Immonen, if he's to do that this week, will have to play better than he started this match. And yet, he's got a really good chance here to go 4-1 up. Dovan Khai catching the 9 on the way through there.
Yeah, and I talk about it all the time with students that, you know, the pros, whether they know it or not, they're practicing certain things. And what I mean by that is some are just like, oh, that's the feeling I want. I know that's the right one. But then you have some players that really understand their swing and can, you know, really identify their flaws. And I think that's an asset, you know, as a whole. And you know, I think Mika was more one that understood the feeling of things more than the actual technique itself. And so maybe if he misses a few balls, it can become a little bit of a struggle until he knocks a few nice ones in.
Well, he's knocked in these few from the ball in hand. So 3 balls down off the break. It wasn't straightforward from there by any means, but eventually he's won the rack. And all of a sudden he's already halfway to victory in this race to 8 in losers round 2. Long Duc Tien continuing to go well in the next round. Now 4-0 up on Lee Kun Fang. As we have a look in again over on table 2. Elliot Sanderson absolutely flying 5-1 against Wen Nok Tai. BJ Ussery, a match I know you're keeping a close eye on, JJ. He's in contention to make your team. But he's 2-1 down to Tuan Wen. So they're all in the round after this. Rafael Gonzalez of the Philippines, who we saw a bit of yesterday, in front of the cameras, 2-1 up on Alvin Angito in this round. And Chris Melling also in losers round 2, level at 2-all with Win Huang Pong.
Look at him, he's playing the crowd and I love it.
Well, if they're on your side, keep them on your side and play to that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more of that as the World Nineball Tour moves on, especially different locations and so many different fans from around the world. Still can't convince me there's another more global sport, at least the sports that I recognize. I don't know them all. All right, here another one. He has a chance to push out. He's elevated over 2 balls. Nothing obvious on the safety. So maybe that one, you know, that's what he's going to take time to learn, and you know, when to pull the trigger, when to roll out, push out, excuse me, and that just comes with time.
And it only comes with time, isn't it? You can't really teach someone those decisions and those shot selections. It only comes with experience.
Yeah, that's why, you know, in our sport, there's so many tournaments, you know, you can't replace that match time because you don't realize you're learning so much. When the heat's on, your brain's retaining, even if you're not trying to.
Immonen got to the last 32 of the World Championship earlier this year. Good performance, past the age of 50. But to be fair, he's not really done it in the matchroom events since then. Last 64 at the European Open. The best of them.
Yeah, it's people, you know, I do a lot of teaching, and you know, people come to me and say, oh, I want to learn how to play position. Well, that's a hard one in 2 hours. You know, that's just a hard thing, but you know, we try and set it up to where they're learning without even realizing they're learning, but working on other things as well. It caught the point, straightened out the cue ball. I think there is a look here. Everything very difficult with the 4-5. The 1 is demanding. The 2, he's not going to get much closer. The 3 up top. So let's see if he can get through these.
Well, that was one that it was always possible he could miss, but he missed that by such a long way, and he's left a sitter now.
Yeah, and every player has to find their own definition of taking dead aim. You know, whether it be a little more calming kind of effect, make, you know, a little more focus one way or another, whatever that is, up off the ball for some, but maybe pulled the trigger a little quick when he got down there for dough. Nice shot there. He wants to carry a lot of angle here so he can come straight down the table without having to punch the ball. Not a lot here, so love to be about 2-3 inches, you know, higher and a little heavier angle. It's close enough to it though, should be able to control. Oh, he played a rail first, real smart.
12 days ago, Jeremy, you and I were sitting in Atlantic City talking about the prospect of Fedor Gorst becoming the 13th player to have won both of the 2 standout titles in the sport, the World Championship and the US Open. Didn't happen for him. Ko Ping Chung had other ideas. But Immonen is one of the 12 who have done it. He was world champion all the way back in 2001, beat Ralph Souquet in the final. And then 7 years later, saw off Ronnie Elcano to win the US Open, starting a run of 4 US Opens in a row for European players. 2 of them from Darren Appleton, but 2 of them from Immonen himself, because he followed his 08 win with success again the following year. Again, beating Souquet in the final.
Yeah, it was an incredible 2-year run, or 2-time champion run. When he won his first one undefeated. In the second one, he lost his first match, and then it was true double elimination. It didn't go down to a knockout stage, so he had to grind out some 14 or 15 matches in a row to win the event. He lost a hill match, 9-8 to Chris Bartram. I was right next to that table watching that first match, and then it was big news because, you know, Mika Immonen taking it down in the first round. Now, Chris Bartram, a great player, but then he just sawed off the field to get his second US Open title.
Just sensing maybe that Immonen is now feeling about this match that his opponent isn't really going to be able to challenge him here. He saw the ball he missed by such a long way there. They both made mistakes, but Dovan Khai has had his chances. He's been less effective at taking them, and you saw the difference there really. Immonen had work to do, but managed to get through it all, and now he's looking pretty comfortable here at 5-1. Only needs 3 more racks to go through.
Yeah, that 4 and 5 will really help the timing on the stroke and give a little more confidence. Maybe be able to forget a few of those misses. You could even see it in the eyes right there that he felt better about that run out, more of what he's wanted to do on a big day at the Hanoi Open.
A lot of matches going on, as you can see there. Chris Melling is one we're keeping a close eye on table 3. Player who's more than capable of a long run here. 3-2 up on Wen Wong Pong.
Yeah, I saw Chris this morning, Michael, and he looked a lot better physically, meaning just more fresh, looked like a lot more energy, big smile on his face like always, but saw him on the first day or 2 and he looked a little peaked, you know, he'd come in not long before the event started, and he's a guy that comes to Asia a lot, but it's still taxing, and he's not one of those youngsters.
Yeah, he was a professional snooker player for a number of years and beat so many good players, including the current world champion, Luca Brissell, in a big ranking event. fact, as we're talking about him, he's just ticked over to 4-2. Hailing from that part of the world, Yorkshire, north of England, where cue sports are such a part of the fabric of life. It's increasingly becoming the case here in Vietnam. Mika Immonen, 5-1 up. Two, I think, may have rolled just far enough to be able to get past the 7. Should be able to tell from here.
And I think it's been a few of these lighter ones that's kind of gotten him on course. Another nice one there. Now I think he's got to kind of draw this, maybe bump the 4 short side. Oh, he could cheat it, okay.
How many Moscone Cups do you reckon Mika Immonen has played in?
I think it's like 15 or 16.
It's exactly 15,
yeah.
Second only to Ralph Souquet's 17 from the European point of view, and 5th highest of all time overall.
I drew him in a lot of matches in the Moscone.
Actually, looking at it, he's tied 4th overall because Strickland is alongside him on 15, so it's only Johnny Archer, Shane Van Boning and Souquet who've played in more than him. Although, from those 15, he's only on the winning side 4 times because most of his Moscone career was in an era when the Americans were dominant.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he played that to come across. The 7 wasn't too far from the pocket, and again, if he just reminds himself how great he is, he can draw over and take a little cut on the 7. Not saying it would have been totally easy. That's a nice one there. And that's what people don't realize sometimes when they think about the Europeans. They had some great teams back then when the Americans really put it together for many years. And they had a Ralph Souquet and in his prime, Mika Immonen, of course, many other great European players and guys that were tough to beat. And even Steve Davis, you wouldn't believe how tough he was to beat.
Oh, I would. I grew up watching Steve Davis destroy opponents on a snooker table.
Yeah, he was a genius, you know. So, and he didn't dog it. That's the other thing. He had a nose for the finish line.
Oh yeah, he loved playing under pressure, whatever the cue sport. And just a ruthless streak, which you would never think to speak to him, but out there on the table, he certainly had it. And the same applies to Mika Immonen, who really is starting to look a lot more freed up now. And that was probably his best rack of the match so far. It's a rack which takes him within 2 of victory. I said he's just done everything. We've listed there, US Open back-to-back, world champion. He's won some Moscones as well. He's even won a World Cup with Finland, alongside Petri Mäkinen back in 2012. Finland have got a very good record in the World Cup. They'd also been runners-up 5 years prior to that. They've had a couple of semi-finals since, and Immonen has been involved in all of those. We say it so often, Jeremy, don't we? You go out there in front of the cameras, you're the underdog in the match. If you get beaten heavily, you can take that. The thing that always gets in your head is if you've had the chances and not done anything with them, and that's the case for Do Van Khai here.
Yeah, that open miss 8 ball there in that one game, then he had another miss, but then it's been compiled with, maybe a little inexperience with some decisions that weren't really offensive decisions, just but they were still crucial ones.
So Mika Immonen needs 2 more racks to get within 2 more wins, making that final 64 in one of these big Matchroom Open events for just the 2nd time this year.
Yeah, he's not going to get a shot, but so we'll see Mika take on the push, of course. Not an easy place to push.
We were talking yesterday, I was on with Carl, we were commentating on Niels Feijen playing Jeremy, and we were saying how he just has all the credentials to be a European Mosconi captain of the future. Now Mika Immonen, obviously from a playing point of view, has got all those credentials as well, but I'm not sure we'd quite see him as a captain, Mika. I'm not sure he's quite of that personality. It's not really a criticism of him, but it's just he's a very different sort of personality. What do you think? Could he be a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's, you know, you never got the feeling during his career maybe that it was that type of person, right? Just like anything, you know, some people are built for coaching, some people are built not for coaching or captain. And yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that things can't change a little bit. Certainly doesn't mean that, you know, I think we could all say fairly that Mika has become more humble as we moved along, and that's saying in all the best way. He wasn't terrible before. He was just a, you know, the great players carry a little ego at times, and, you know, you never know what may transpire, though.
Yeah, and I know when we're talking about Mosconi, we draw comparisons with the Ryder Cup a lot for obvious reasons, and you look at the great runs of success that Europe have had in that in recent times. You look at someone like Sam Torrance and then Bernhard Langer, who captained Europe in consecutive Ryder Cups. They both won, but both in very, very different styles of leadership.
Yeah, you could see that. But of course, you know, it's a funny thing with the great players. It's simple things, right? It's simple things you do a lot of. So with amateurs, it's a little different as you go down the line, or lesser players. You actually have a little more constructive work, and then a lot of it as well. But you know, like a Sam Torrance, he was way loved, and he brought a victory, if I remember correctly, that was huge for Europe. And you know, there is a little factor. If they trust you and they like you and they believe in you, they're going to play harder for you. And we see it in all sports, I believe. Yeah,
different styles of leadership can be just as effective as each other.
Yeah,
in whatever way.
Well, in sports now we have a thing called analytics that has been around, right? We have coaches that go by analytics, and then, you know, coaches that are a little more calm, and they don't have to say a whole lot, because when they do say something, the players really take it in, and that's what I see with the greats anyways. It's not a ton of a change or anything. It's small direction, and then putting in a lot of hours working on it, and that's mentally as well. All right, big shot here. Ooh, you can see how tough these tables are playing already.
Well, when you're 6-1 down, what you want is a bit of a gift. 4 balls left on the table, 6 and 7, both right over pockets, 8 and 9 out in the open. This is exactly what you're hoping for. And surely he's got to win this right now if there's to be any chance of staging any sort of recovery. Yes, when the ball's in the jaws like this, there's always a bit of unpredictability about what the cue ball's going to do, but it doesn't take much to get on the 8, really.
Yeah, this ball's going to spin a bit, so he's going to get a difficult 8 ball. He's got to command the cue ball a little bit, because he can roll across easily, but if he gets into the cue ball, which he should, could go past the 9 a bit.
That looked very snatchy to me, JJ.
Yeah, a lot. Again, the stroke's actually pretty good, just needs a little help with timing. And, you know, some of those matches he won at the Perry, it's kind of obvious now that he played well early and got some confidence going, and then probably didn't miss balls like this, you know, quite so much. Similar safety to we had in the first game, or second game rather, after Doe had missed an 8. Really carbon copy, seems like. Hit there. That's just going to surrender a shot, though. Nothing easy. He did hold the cue ball on the rail. This used to be Mika's one of his best shots, really. Shooting off the rail, really having to just not totally roll the ball in, but just rely on his ball pocketing. Really good.
Yeah, so very similar to one of the earlier racks. Khai had a chance, missed late on in the rack, and then Immonen got him a bit tied up and saw it out from there. So Mika Immonen has now won half a dozen racks in a row. If he wins one more, he will be through to the penultimate round on the loser's side. Long Duc Tien is already there, and it looks as though he's about to make progress to loser's qualification. One of the better known players from this country, leading Lee Kun Fang 6-0. BJ Ussery now 3-2 up on Tuan Nguyen. Ussery doesn't tend to travel to these sorts of events, Jeremy, but he's here for one reason and one reason only, because he wants to be on your team.
Yeah, I think he wanted to travel to more events. Just was very delayed getting his passport. You know, since pandemic, a lot of things have slowed down, and those kind of government-regarded things. Of course, who knows why exactly, but you know, there's sufficient reason, I'm sure. But he commented that he wanted to make more of those international events, and I think he's going to do it next year, to be fair. I think he's getting a taste, and the events are only going to get better. And I think there's places he wants to go, and that's not only with his pool game.
Well, we're always saying it would be great to see more Americans capable of making deep runs in these events. I think he's definitely got the ability to do that.
Well, this is the thing that I am 100% positive about. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Whether he believes it or any other player, you are going to improve your game out here. It's just how it is, and it's really, for a player like BJ, maybe one of the few ways he can improve his game besides, of course, just steady training. But I mean, you just start to learn things without even knowing. You know, when I first hit the scene professionally, I was a pretty darn good player already, but just learn from the guys a little mentality. You know, there's some things on the table, of course, grinding out those extra games here and there that make all the difference. And you find out a lot about yourself as well. It's easy to play those regionals when you're a little favorite every match, but you know, when it's going to be match after match where you're not necessarily a big favorite, or maybe a favorite at all, that's when things start to really unfold a bit more. And I think you should. I mean, you only live once. I mean, I sure loved seeing really how I was under the pressure and just how well I could play. Here he's getting going a little bit. This cue ball's got to slow down a hair. Should be good. What I've seen, fine work overnight, getting a few things fixed technically here in the arena.
Yeah, definitely. Indications are good. And you know what? Even though Khai is still almost certainly going to lose this match, it's good for him that he's had that moment there. He's had that rack. The dry break gave him the opportunity. He looked very fluent there and mopped up. Here is that break. One hit off both points of the side pocket. Flicked off the 4, left the chance. Khai just taking that opportunity to do something he's not really done in this match. Just show the world what a capable player he actually is.
Yeah, the actual arm action itself is pretty straight, pretty good technique. A lot of things look in good place. Maybe think about timing a little bit, tempo, because when he swings it well, it's there. Just got to remind yourself how important a piece of the stroke that is. Oh, he's made 3 in the upper corner. Oh my, that's pretty unlucky.
Yeah, only 2 of them. He wanted 2, and that may very well be his last involvement in this year's Hanoi Open.
Tell you, good or bad, I don't know if I've ever been somewhere where I've seen so many people smiling. It's amazing, and not just here, excited for the tournament, the hotel, the restaurants, anywhere we've gone, it's been incredible.
you go down for breakfast in the hotel, and as you're walking around, about half a dozen people just appear out of nowhere saying, hello, good morning, how can I help you?
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like pulling teeth, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm sure any establishment wants their employees to be as good as they can, but it seems pretty natural to me, and I think more action on table 2. We'll try and get something going over there, maybe a split screen, but a difficult little rack here with ball in hand for Mika Immonen. But this is to shut the door and move on, and he'd like to finish it right here. It should be okay, just a one rail. Just gotta, I always say, use your talent. Anytime you're coming just kind of one rail, just gotta use your talent. This is surprising. I don't understand why he just wouldn't roll between the 6-9.
That lady you saw on the screen there is Emily Fraser from England, who's the architect of all these new events, really, and from Matchroom Sport. Yeah, table 2, Marcos Martin of Spain is leading 4-2, and it's Khai who's winning the popularity battle.
Well, you know, you weren't raised around pool, of course, but in America, it seems like every pool room you go into, you have a few characters that people love just because their charisma maybe off the table a little better than on, and maybe a big fan or popular one here in Hanoi.
That match has actually gone 4-3. Martin had a good chance to win the 7th rack. Missed the 8-ball, I think it was, and Khai, so I'm told, basically laughed in his face. Then potted the 8 and the 9 and nearly went needlessly and scratched on both of those shots. So all very eventful over there.
Well, looks like a safety here. I think he would bank at this, but really no position to draw.
Yeah, we'll go over and join that table 2 action once this match is over.
Pretty nice effort there from Doe. Being over the ball is always hard to control everything. Now Mika going back for, I thought was, okay, some type of jump cue, but maybe not. I thought he had a look at the red 3, really. I feel like he can get at it, but he was kind of sizing up the kick. Taking a lot of time here. Anytime you're close to the ball, aiming can get a little distorted, let's say. Nice shot there, and 2 rails in pretty prime position. This angle from that camera, the previous one would fool you. It's not quite as straight as we thought. We've got to make a decision. Do I roll this in for a thin cut on the 8? Do I try and come across, getting better? Yeah, smart shot there. Just accept it. Very demanding though. And this is where the stroke makes a huge difference. Give a clean contact on the 8. Another one of those shots Mika was really, he played one of the absolute best at, near the rail with a full contact run through with the cue ball.
Classic case of one more good shot and this is all over. And that's a pretty good shot. So Dovan Khai has shown glimpses at times of the player he could go on to be. But today, he's missed too many chances. Mika Immonen certainly didn't play his best.
I don't think he realizes it's a race to 8. Mika.
Yeah,
he
he's
lost
getting
his
ready
last
for the
in
next
race
one.
to 9. His opponent's waiting for the handshake. Oh, he's like, oh yeah.
He's meant to be the more experienced one. He should know everything that's going on. Anyway, the match is now over. Even if Mika Immonen didn't quite realize it, he has won by 8 racks to 2.